Greetings and welcome to the Transform podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio, and this is episode 10 of season 2. Today's guest is John Salzinger, a clean energy and climate tech founder. In the past, he built a solar portable tech brand, a company that has touched the lives of over 5 million people, and is also the founder of Haven. John is an inventor with over 25 patents and an all-around interesting guy, and we're beyond excited to have him today as a guest. Welcome, John.
Thanks so much. You're an interesting guy, too.
Thanks, John. So it's great to have you here today. I thought it would be best for us to start, for the audience's sake, with some of your background, your professional journey, entrepreneurial pursuits, things of that nature, bringing us up to the present.
Sure. Thank you. So to go pretty far back, which I think is applicable, sort of in my environmental DNA, I grew up in New York, actually still in New York, so that's a rarity, city. And my parents were both very progressive, before that was a cool word, very liberal, I think it was called at the time, and believed in science, and data, and environmental, progress over sort of capitalist progress. And I do think that shaped my journey. I did a lot of things. I worked for ABC and Associated Press and fashion photography and credit card merchant services. I ran nightclubs, actually. I've done 30 different jobs. But I think what gave me a bit more life to my work was in 2012 when I founded Empowered, which was the last company, the solar company you referenced, which was a B Corp with a score of about 140, which was very high, and was one of the pioneers in that industry. That's for those who don't know, a B Corp is a for-purpose company, a company that does good and does well at the same time. And that's sort of what gave me sort of a better day in the life every day. Work is difficult. Work is challenging. That's why it's called going to work and not going to play. And both my parents worked very hard but loved what they did. My father was the head of science for the APA, worked until he was very old. My mother also was a research scientist who got tons of money, millions of dollars for public school children, as an example, and sort of the challenges they faced at home. They loved what they did, is my point. And they did things that really helped folks in the world. And so when I started to do that, versus all the other stuff I had done, it really made me feel good. Fast forward, 8 years ago, I had a child, and so now it's even more important for me to do good because the world is so uncertain right now, sure, both environmentally and also sort of socially. And structurally, I felt, let me try to help what I can do. I'm not in politics, thankfully, but I am in business. Yep. We live in a capitalist world. And so how can I utilize that structure to do good, but also, be okay, raise a family, etc. To me, that's kind of where it all started. There's a lot in between there. I think it's insignificant. As my dad was a behaviorist, I think environment is everything, and that pun is intended. But so I'm trying to provide a better environment for everyone in the world. And the last company, we had 20 odd people. We impacted 5 million lives. Hey, if I could do even a portion of that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome, John. So you mentioned New York City. I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up for a portion of my youth in Staten Island before I went off to college. So there's a connection there, obviously.
Multi-borough guy. I like that.
Right,
Manhattan
exactly.
to Brooklyn is me, same kind of
Yeah,
guy.
and bounced around, like New Jersey, Connecticut. We did that part.
Oh, New Jersey. So, that's okay.
Yeah, I think it was Pine Bush, or not Pine Bush. I'm trying to think where it was in New Jersey. It'll come to me. But in
Okay.
Connecticut, it was Bethel. So we were in Bethel,
Oh, that's
Connecticut.
nice. So you hit the tri-state area.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I think also, personally, John, when you mentioned having a child, it resonates. I had my first and only child 6 years ago, and it definitely changes perspective in some expected and some unexpected ways. I know in our previous conversation when you talked about your current pursuit of Haven, I was absolutely fascinated by that. You mentioned, it's obviously a new venture. I think you mentioned you have no board. It's a brand new brand. Can you talk just briefly about what you have going with Haven specifically and how that kind of came together?
Yeah, so in the past, you have a company, you have a lot of investors. At some point, you have staff, you have all sorts of folks with hands in the pot. And at some point, you lose a bit of control. And this isn't an ego thing. This is, how can I refine my product? How can I create new product? How can I invest capital from earnings into new products, into new channels, into things that I think would be helpful, or we think would be helpful? And that became more and more difficult. Now, there were a lot of outside influences, such as COVID and chip shortages and logistics challenges, and everything kind of hit at the same time.
Yeah.
But over time, the loss of control of being able to make the right decisions around product, I think of myself as an inventor of products, of tools for good. And that's the most important thing. So starting over, starting fresh, not tripping over the same branches I did in the past, doing it on my own, making sure that when I put the money in, there's no one else to say, hey, you have to do it this way.
Yep.
And that enabled me to create a better tool. And as an inventor, that's all you want to do. Something that looks nicer and provides dignity. Something that functions better and provides modern capabilities. So the light we created, which is also called Haven 10,000, which refers to its battery, 10,000 milliamps, charges two brand new iPhones. There's nothing like that. That's a lantern and a charger. It also would charge a full tablet, brand new Apple tablet, and have 30% left over for lighting, which is, it's important for anyone that walks around in the day and does work, but there's a kid in Nepal that needs to work, and he's been given, from a foundation tablets, they got to charge them. And they still need light, so they don't have to deal with kerosene. And so all of these things, I wanted to refine, and even the materials in the product are better for the environment. So everything I ever wanted to do, I did. So everything from efficiencies to functionality to aesthetic. I took everything that I heard from NGOs and consumers and retailers and buyers and distributors all around the world and listened and made a product based on the field, the general field's information to me, not on my thoughts, which are generally end up being counterintuitive.
Gotcha. No, thanks for that, John. One of the areas I wanted to explore with you is how you stay motivated when you receive skepticism from, let's say, an investor, a consumer, a partner, when you sort of set out to put a product like this into the world where you're targeting, let's say, an underserved community, or you're trying to make global impact. Maybe you're taking a view of it that's not as purely capitalist as, let's say, the next company or the other companies. How do you kind of deal with that? I know what you mentioned before about your parents was really compelling. I imagine maybe that's part of it, but how do you handle that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer is not really simple. But one part of it is. So when you do good and you do well, and to any entrepreneurs out there listening, that's actually a bonus to the consumer. Therefore, it's a bonus to the buyer at retail or the distributor to retail.
Yeah.
And I reduce my prices and take the smallest orders that are needed for any NGO. To me, that's, you do good, you have an authentic message, You can put it on social media, and everyone wins. The NGO that's deploying, the consumer that looks at your product, you, and not everything. I'm not transactional. I don't feel like one deal and I'm done. I didn't make a product to do like a $4 million, order. I'm happy with one sale to one person. I'm happy with 12 units to a small localized NGO. We just sent units to Mongolia. Now it was bigger than that, but people in rural Mongolia are using our lights today, right now. We have lights in Jamaica today.
Wow.
Right now, after that horrible Hurricane Melissa that just Cat 5 destroyed southwest of Jamaica. And they still have lighting problems, even though the media is not there.
Right.
The other thing I would say, which is more important, because that was sort of the business case for doing good and doing well, and for-purpose social impact organizations, which I think are a benefit in every way possible. How do I stay motivated? I don't. I'm like anyone else. Some days are tougher than others.
Yeah.
Some days you don't live up to your best the way you want to be.
Yeah.
Some days you get frustrated. And some days that you can take in, and instead of mourning your day, you can just revisit it.
Yeah.
And you can learn from it. And there's a great, I love quoting, I'm into basketball, so I'm really really excited when I look at like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan quotes. And,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was like, anyone who doubted me, that's why I was great. It was a great speech he made.
Last Dance was a great documentary.
Great documentary.
Yeah.
But there was a great question posed to Kobe Bryant, who learned from Michael Jordan. Didn't know everything, learned from Michael Jordan, gave him ton of credit. But Kobe was asked, do you play to win, or do you play not to lose? And he said, neither. He said, I play to learn. And these are people that, it doesn't matter if they're a Nobel laureate or a basketball player. If you look at people that are very successful, and this doesn't always happen, because some people have their generational wealth has helped them and they have leg up on others.
Yeah.
But for people that have just really grinded it and worked really hard and have hit like the upper echelons of their field, they all have one thing in common. They're human, but they fight those instincts to let it get them down for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And they actually use it or frame it differently in a way that is the only way to be a successful entrepreneur. Because you're right, it's difficult, you're not always motivated, you're just as tired as the next person, and some people live paycheck to paycheck, and that's really difficult. And some people are okay, they don't have to work at all. But if you're an entrepreneur, you don't even have a paycheck if you don't work. You create your own paycheck. And so in some ways, it's more freeing, and in other ways, you really have to figure out that mindset that's going to get you through those days.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's self-talk, sometimes it's talking to people like you, or trying to create a positive circle with the partners in your business or anyone you work with. So that would be my answer. But no, there's no perfect answer to that. And people that tell you I'm perfect all the time, and no, I don't buy it.
Well, I have to say, John, your answer is personally relevant. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have those types of mixed days. So yeah, really connected with you on that point there.
Yeah.
You may have alluded to this, I think, when you cited Mongolia and Jamaica, but can you share, and maybe it's one of those, maybe it's something different, can you share a specific story where you realized the real world difference that your product was making, whether it was a community in need, a disaster relief
100%.
effort, something like that?
100%. We just got a really wonderful letter back from CFK. It was a small organization, work out of Korea in the U.S. And sometimes localized NGOs are really, really powerful because they have really strong information into where they work. They're the ones that got the light into Mongolia. And from the elderly to the youngest of folks, they literally said they loved the light because it gave them that dignity. It gave them that that feeling of importance, and that it provided the functionality that they required every day, and it was life-changing. And this was kind of just, I didn't expect to get this. You can check it out on Haven on LinkedIn, Haven Lantern on LinkedIn, but it's a worthy video of checking out because it's beautiful. And to reverse what you said before, on those bad days, that's a good day.
Yeah.
When you have people that just need a little bit of help, and they tell you that you're helping them, on the other side of the planet, that's everything. That's everything. And so that was really exciting for me, and that's just one of many stories to come. But already we've just launched a company, and now boom, there's a story, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what does make the bad days better, and the good days phenomenal.
Yeah. Just from a personal standpoint, John, we try to teach our son the number one thing that he should be putting out into the world is kindness, and you have scaled, in a certain sense, you have scaled kindness, and it's just really inspiring. It's very fascinating, and thank you for telling that story. As someone who encourages a socially conscious version of entrepreneurship, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that someone would face, as they launch a B Corp or try to create an impact-oriented business, and how could that founder overcome those?
So this is going to be another reverse answer. I think starting any company is almost impossible today.
Yeah.
You have to rely on a broken capital structure where large investment, whether it's VC or private equity or angel investors, that you have all the pressure of your own family and friends. It's really hard to get out there and get a loan. Was able to do that this time, but it's really hard to do that without a track record. So someone who's starting from ground zero, nothing, it's difficult to start any business.
Yeah.
So having a product that has a solution is really important. You're solving a problem. I don't care what the problem is. You're already impacting in a positive way.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just putting out a product that kind of isn't as necessary and you're marketing the heck out of it, it's like no offense to fidget spinners or anything like that. They're great. But I'm just saying as an example. And that probably does have, plenty of, social positive impact for kids and those that need to fidget around, But honestly, the more your solution can impact folks and resolve a current challenge, the easier it actually is. The more your solution touches the heart and soul of people and it does good and makes them feel better, the easier it is. So I would say social impact is probably an easier channel because you have a competitive advantage over those who might have the same exact product, but maybe they're not doing as much good.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, every single person, bipartisan, every single person likes to laugh. Everyone likes to smile more than frowning and crying.
Yeah.
And so that's what marketing is, make people feel good, right? But if your product already makes people feel good, less need for marketing. Just tell your stories, do your business, build on it slowly, have patience, probably work out. If your solution is actually solving something, it will work out. I believe that.
Yeah. It's interesting as you were saying that, John. It just makes me kind of aware of the fact that when you're doing good and you have a social impact, it's a natural authenticity. You don't have to try to manufacture it into your marketing. You just, like you said, you tell your story and it sort of rises to the surface. So that's really interesting. And I think this is a perfect segue to this next question in terms of like how hard this really is. If you could go back and give yourself like one piece of advice, doesn't, if you don't want to limit it to one, you don't have to, but one piece of advice before starting a new business, based on everything you've experienced, everything you know now, what would that be?
Yeah, as you said, there's never one.
Yeah.
I did not get an MBA. I was a communications and sociology major. Um, I I think that I think I got my MBA by failing, but by not tripping over the same branch twice.
Yeah.
Um, everything, everything from sourcing properly, from doing your diligence, from speaking to the right people, from researching every single thing you do before you do it, from learning more from your failures than from your successes. Uh, there are so many examples, from funding to manufacturing to selling, that I could cite. If I had to pick one, I would say that make sure whomever you're doing business with, whether that's your funding side, whether that's your partners, whether that's the people you do business with externally, make sure they align with how you do your business, who you are as a person, and what your end goal is. If your end goal is impact, don't get funding from someone who wants an exit, right? And vice versa, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, is the most important thing that you can possibly do. Figure out what you want to do, who you are in that space, and then find like-minded individuals, because business is a community that you create. That's what your business is.
Yeah.
And it's not a culture that's manufactured or anything like that. You literally create your business community. It's a wonderful opportunity. I would say take your time, do it right. Another example of that, adversely, you could create a bad community, a nefarious community, some fraudulent community. There's so many pitfalls.
Yeah.
You could create a community where someone doesn't really like you, they're using you, or someone is trying to take your company from you. There's so many things.
Yeah.
It's the same way you define the closest relationships in your life. Do the
Yeah.
same thing with your business. Don't differentiate it, because most of our time, if we're lucky, is with work. It's not personal. And so make sure that you do right by yourself, and be careful, be sensible, be reasonable, but make the same decisions that you would make personally in business. I think, to me, that was sort of a recipe that helped a bit. Control the controllables. There's a lot of things you won't be able to control, but that you can control.
Yeah. That sounds like an outstanding piece of advice for our listeners, John. I mean, the way you kind of relate taking that venture to developing personal relationships with people. I mean, it definitely, it resonates because you kind of are getting married, if you want to use that analogy, to this community in a sense, right? Your fates are sort of intertwined. And so it's a fascinating way to look at it, a constructive way to look at it, I think. So, yeah, thank you for that. I think our audience...
Take care of those relationships too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you and me speak today, but I'm sure we're going to have a relationship now. Take care of those relationships, because they're meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So, John, in terms of some of your background, you definitely are a unique guest for our podcast, which I think is really exciting. You know, the social impact and the leadership you've shown in that area. So there's already a new dimension there. But just doing some of the research on your background and so forth, how do you balance the ambition you have in this sphere that we've talked about, your purpose, your sort of work-life situation? I think we saw one area where you mentioned being into surfing and basketball. You, of course, mentioned basketball here in the episode. Just how do you balance everything? Also, you have a child. How do you kind of keep it all together? This is going to be personally valuable for me to hear, too.
Yeah.
So,
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday I do. Friday, Saturday I don't. I don't know. You just do your best.
Yeah.
I would say, that the morality, the morality play, the impact, those stories boost you up in the same way your child does. Like, you look for positivity and positive relationships, and we all have. There's so much more that allows us to see similarities in one another than differences. So your question is well taken and really purposeful. I think admitting that it's a challenge, admitting that this life we live can be challenging, accepting that change is coming, change is okay, trying to accept that, trying to teach that to your kid. That's another thing. Like, maybe some of it for me, you think you're conditioning your kid's conditioning you. Maybe some of it is just being open to hearing from your world and being more accepting instead of fighting so much of it. There's plenty of times I want to have an opinion, and that's something I had to learn as a native New Yorker, right? But I'll give you one point here. So, driving in New York City, and driving everywhere, is where human beings have more power than when they're walking. When they usually say, "Excuse me," they're just not even putting on their blinker. They're going in your lane. It's so rude. There's all this stuff. It's dangerous. You got your kid in the car. Well, I used to be a New Yorker, so I don't need to go into the details on what you're saying in your car. My kid was like, "Daddy, can you chill out? Can you chill out? It hurts your body when you act like that." My kid told me that when he was 7. And so I stopped doing it, and now I'm happier. So being open to even your little kid, being open to everything, I think helps. I think that's part of the way you cope. Don't swim upstream. You're not a salmon, right? Just go with the flow. Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And try to navigate to those areas where you are floating, or you're floating.
So, John, I'm a big fan of people who know me well of Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not sure if you're aware of him. He actually runs a business out of New York City, just so happens, that's marketing oriented, and he talks a lot about work-life balance. It seems to sort of match in some ways what you're saying, where there is no such thing. You're really just prioritizing one thing or the other, and you cannot do all at once. And so you just have to kind of come to peace with that. And I sort of hear elements of that in your response. So
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
The only differential is I think you can combine some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can have some of your best relationships, your best personal relationships, from people you've met at work, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, why not combine that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
As we kind of wind things down, John, you've mentioned obviously you're a New Yorker and you love basketball, so I'm assuming you're a Knicks fan.
Oof. So I used to go to Knicks games when Bernard King was there. So I'm dating myself. As a New Yorker, it's very easy to be a Yankee fan. That's my vacation.
Yeah.
But as a fanatic, that's when the Knicks come in. And yeah, I honestly will tell you, if the Knicks did a little better for a few years, I'd go back. But as a basketball player, I kind of now, I adulted. and I look for talent. Just like I look for the best podcast, I look for the best friends, the best business model.
Yeah.
I look for the best players, and I try to learn from watching them play, and the best teams. So a lot of my friends are like, you're on the bandwagon. That's one way to look at it. I want to watch the best possible basketball on the planet every year. If it's Denver one year and Golden State the other year, man, I'd love it to be the Knicks. And all my friends are like, you're a fake. All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. What I take out of sports is enjoying accolades, enjoying the entertainment, enjoying watching people do what no one else can do.
Yeah.
And, Otani. This is this wild stuff going on in sports. Yeah. My kid likes so many different people on so many different teams, and I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
And I love the Knicks. But if you're going to ask me why I love the Knicks, man, I can't believe what Brunson does. with his body type in the NBA is mind-boggling.
Absolutely.
And so I learned from that.
Yeah.
And by the way, that guy and everyone else that does what they do at that level
Yeah.
has nothing to do with skill level. It's drive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So sure, I love the Knicks. I have to say that, right? Let's go Knicks. Yeah.
So John, it's interesting, when you say that, because it is fascinating to see someone who's perfecting and honing and deepening their craft, even if they're not wearing the jersey that you want them to be. So I totally hear what you're saying there. And as we prepare to close out, I did remember where we lived in New Jersey. It's Twin Rivers.
Oh, okay.
So I just had to straighten the record.
For the record, yeah.
So, but John, where can people who want to follow you? Where can they find you online? Where can they hear more from you?
Okay, thank you for that. Well, I like to put the mission in the company first, so havenlantern.com. Go to our website. You can buy a light for yourself. You can buy a light for others at a lower price called our Give Haven campaign. If you're a business, corporate, retailer, distributor, you want to get lights. If you're an NGO, you want to get lights at a lower price, there's a B2B section on our website. Personally, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, John Salzinger. Easy to find. Somewhat unique name. Not Salzinger. I'm not a writer. I'm not in that pedigree. But those are the best two ways to reach out. And I prefer that you try the company first and get on board, because it takes a village, and join the mission, and let's help everyone. By the way, buying a light, if you live in the U.S. and you're doing okay, is still great for the environment, and that's a wonderful thing to do.
Absolutely. Well, John, I definitely hope to have you back on the podcast at some point. I'll be following you on LinkedIn. might
vice
tag me here and
versa.
there. So I really enjoyed talking to you both now and in our previous conversation. So thank you so much for being here today.
Very nice to have met you and meet again today, and we'll stay in contact. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.